Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mabia, and in today's video, we're gonna get you back on track. As you can tell by the title of this video, today we're going to be talking about anything and everything procrastination. Obviously, this is something that we all struggle with. Doesn't matter how old you are. When you're a kid, you don't really know the word for it, but you're definitely experiencing it. When you're an adult, it's even harder to fight back. So in this video, we're going to break it up into two parts. The first part is talking about why we even procrastinate in the first place. And then the second part will be tips and other ways to overcome procrastination. So to start off, I read this on a Reddit thread a while ago. Obviously, you're going to see all these tips about overcoming procrastination through time management tips and stuff like that. But that's not really going to solve your issue if you procrastinate due to how you regulate your emotions. So basically, the whole general idea is that procrastination is about how you are dealing with your emotions toward the task that you have to do. You experience a lot of irrational emotions when you are faced with a task, and some people are better at regulating these emotions than others. And what happens is if you're not the best at regulating these negative and irrational emotions, you end up being filled with thoughts of fear and failure and shame. And that kind of makes you want to stop trying the task that you're doing. Most people do procrastinate because they think the task ahead of them is too difficult, or they think it'll bring unpleasant feelings toward them if they tried. Say there's a test coming up and you don't want to study for it. Somebody that's having a hard time regulating their emotions about this test would look at studying for the test as something that is harming them. They think that if they study and still fail, it's embarrassing, or they'd feel really shameful about it. So in their head, it's better for them to not even try at all. And that is essentially why a lot of people put off tasks like this, is because they don't want to try and fail, and they don't want to feel that feeling of failure afterward, or they just are filled with immense fear about completing the task in general that they decide to not touch it at all. And then obviously, other than emotion regulating, another reason why people procrastinate is obviously because they assume that the tasks that they're doing are way more complex than they actually are. We're more inclined to do things that are easier in our heads than harder. And lots of people get completely turned off by the idea of doing something difficult, and that leads them to put off tasks that are difficult to them. And then another reason why people procrastinate is because they're just in areas with too many distractions, their environment doesn't allow them to really sit down and focus on stuff. Obviously, there are more reasons why people procrastinate, but these are the three that stood out to me the most. As someone that's a perfectionist and really cares about all the tiny little details that totally go overlooked, that first thing about regulating your emotions toward a task is definitely why I procrastinate most of the time. I really hate the thought of failing. But now we're going to go on to how to overcome this. Obviously, one of the major ways to overcome the feelings of failure and stuff like that is to realize that your mind is lying to you half the time. Tasks are not always as daunting as they seem, and we tend to really exaggerate how difficult something is in our heads. So it's important for you to look at your tasks and really think about how difficult the task really is. More often than not, if you break down the things that you have to do into smaller steps, it becomes way less daunting, and you're more likely to do it and more likely to see it through. Even if your task is inherently difficult, downplay how difficult it is in your head, because it's only going to help you. That goes on with the next tip that most people have, is to just practice more positive self-talk, which means you should stop assuming that you can't do anything, or that it's going to be too hard for you, or that it's not meant for you before you even try. You shouldn't let negative emotions sit around for too long regarding a task, because the more you're thinking about how it could go wrong, the less you have time to actually do the task and realize that it's definitely going to go all right. Nothing's actually going to go wrong. You are your biggest enemy when it comes to procrastination. You are in charge of how you feel about things. So with practicing more positive self-talk, you're obviously going to start learning how to approach things in a much more open-minded context, which will lead you to being successful with what you're doing. Now, if that isn't enough, connect all the tasks that you're doing back to your goals. And if you don't have goals, make some, because that's just like a problem in its own. Every task that you do plays a part in getting you to the actual place that you want to be. Every little thing you do is definitely a step toward any, if not all, your goals. Every little thing you do matters, even if it's just important for 5 seconds of your life. You needed those 5 seconds to get you to where you actually want to be. Even if a task seems completely irrelevant to your goals, I want you to think of a way to connect it to your goals. Like, force yourself to realize that everything that you do is significant, and it will help you get them done faster or more efficiently or just better in general. And now other like random tips that you can find online and stuff. The first couple tips are always going to be about organization. Make to-do lists, create a routine. Stuff like that is going to help keep you on track. And if you're like me, you really like crossing things off of a to-do list, you're not going to want to procrastinate because you want to see all those things crossed out by the end of the day, don't you? Another easy way to beat procrastination is to start doing your small tasks first, because once you're on a roll completing task after task, doing the harder tasks are going to be a lot easier, and you're going to feel a lot more inclined to even start them in the first place. Some people also recommend timing your task, because the reason a lot of people procrastinate smaller things like dishes or laundry is because they think it'll take too much time or they don't have enough time to do it. But the next time you actually like do the task, if you have a timer next to you, you can see exactly how long it takes. And if it's like 5 minutes long, you can remind yourself every time that you feel like procrastinating on that task, hey, it only took 5 minutes, like, I can do this. And then obviously splitting your task into steps, that's a huge one. You can cross off each step as you go instead of trying to get a whole thing done. Deadlines also make it a lot easier to stop procrastinating. If you know something is due at school, make a mental deadline a couple days before the actual deadline. That way, even if you do end up waiting last minute, you have a bit of grace time to get it together. But you shouldn't be doing that in the first place. Like, set a deadline in your head and actually do it, and make sure that deadline is well before the real deadline. Another way to procrastinate less is to just eliminate how many decisions you have to make in a day. Every decision we make from the moment we wake up adds on to our plate throughout the day. So if you're a person that gets easily overwhelmed like that, make it easier for yourself and eliminate how many decisions you have to make in a day. Whether this be knowing you're going to eat the same thing for lunch every single day or waking up at the same time every day, just make it easier on you so you have more brain power and energy to dictate to the task that you have to actually get done for the day. And obviously a huge part of procrastination and getting over it is to hold yourself accountable. You are in charge of how you go about your day. You are in charge of the things you do. So just hold yourself accountable, and more often than not, you'll just want to start doing more things because you're tired of seeing yourself sit and rot away. Sorry, that was mean. And last but not least, be sure to forgive yourself when you do procrastinate. Don't beat yourself up about it. Everybody has those days. Everybody has those moments. Sometimes you really just don't feel like doing anything, and that's okay. Just don't let it consume you. It's not going to help you to beat yourself up over it. You're going to be less likely to get it done if you're being negative toward yourself. So again, that positive self-talk coming in. But obviously you don't want to baby yourself into never doing anything again either. That was all I really had for this video. I hope this helped some of you lock in a little bit better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.